It is the 2nd of the 10th, 2025. The time is 4 minutes past 8 British summer, and that means only one thing, that as always there are very many F1 centric threads at which we need to pull. There is news on top of news. We'll talk about Alex Palou, so too we'll talk about George Russell, we'll talk about Max Verstappen and the probability that this dude is going to win himself a championship of the drivers' variety in 2025. Funny that the questions are all being asked today in probabilistic terms. Who do you guys know that talks in probabilities all too frequently? Maybe they are watching it over F1. Maybe they are. We'll talk about the probabilities. So too we'll talk about Zach Brown getting sued. We'll talk about Alex Dunn as well. And we'll go through all of the things, all of the bits and bobs, the relevant pieces of news and narrative that you need to know going into the Singapore Grand Prix. Are we quorate? Well then, let's commence in the first instance chat. Let's go through the odds, because people are talking about odds a lot, aren't they, these days? In the first instance, Grand Prix winner, your pole sitter is Lando Norris. They give that chap 7 to 4 million. If you bet £4, you will get £7 back, including your stake. 36% of the time, therefore, if you run the race 100 times under these circumstances, Lando Norris gets it done. 28% of the time, Max Verstappen. 33% of the time, OJP. He's your second favourite, therefore. Charles Leclerc, 10% of the time. George Russell of Kings Lynn, Norfolk, 4% only. Lewis Hamilton again, 4%. Ergo, Lando Norris has the whip hand by dint under the aegis of that MCL 39 and its double brake duct. Lest we forget that Singapore is all curbs and bumps, contoured circumstance, low minimum speed turns. In the second instance, if we're talking about the pole, well, who else but Lando Norris yet again? 7 to 4, meaning put £4 on and you will get £7 back. He therefore is your favourite yet and still. 36% of the time, the experts say this dude will put it on pole. OJP, 33% of the time, is your second favourite. 7 to 2, Maximilian Verstappen. Lest we forget, however, you will never bet against Maximilian Verstappen lest you wish to be deemed an abbot of F1 reason. Charles Leclerc is your fourth favourite. Lewis Hamilton is your fifth. And King George Russell of Kingsley, Norfolk is your sixth favourite. Your lap basics, here's what you need to know. In length, 4.9 kilometres. The race distance is 52 laps. Your winner last year was Lando Norris, despite his best efforts to yeet it into the barrier. Twice the dude lost it. Again, sacrificing his attention span at the altar of mistakes of the unforced variety. Your pole time in 2024. Quickest one was 129.525. Most driver wins. Seb Vettel was a demon around here. Ferrari nail it most frequently. And here's what you need to see. This is what all the teams have brought. None of this cutting downforce out the wing at the last moment. This is high downforce settings because it's low minimum speed. Check it out. You can see on the top right, 90-degree turns each and every single time. Low minimum speed, medium duration. C3, C4 and C5 are the compound tyres that Pirelli have brought to this, and there are track changes, I will have you know. Resurfacing from turn 2 through turn 3, turn 6 through turn 7, turn 9 through 11, 14 to 16, which is the techie one where people were spinning out last year. You remember it had that divot. 16 through 19. Localized patching, turn 5, 6, 3 and 14. Oh, and by the way, stats here courtesy of the legend over on Twitter, Daniel Valente. Here's what you need to know. Again, if we're talking absolute terms performance, you got to shout out Fernando Alonso. Of the 14 times he's qualified around here, he's nailed 13 of them, only losing one of the aforementioned 14 to his teammate. Charles Leclerc, not bad either. 4 plays 1. 6 to 2 is how Max Verstappen is batting. Of the 8 times he's qualified around here, he's only lost 2, taking the other 6. Lewis Hamilton is 11 to 4. On the other end, on the other side of the spectrum, you have yourselves one Lance Stroll. Of the 6 times he's not batting 1,000, he's not even passing the Mendoza line. Of the 6 times that Lando Norris has qualified around here, he's only out qualified his teammate once He's been nailed 5 times. Esteban Ocon, similarly, 6 times he's qualified around there. Lost to his teammates. Been out qualified by him. 4. Your most recent pole sitters are as follows. Lando Norris, 2024. He was God tier around here, was he, last year? Lando Norris. And for that, he deserves credit. Prior to that, in 23, it was Carlos Sainz's turn. Do you remember when he used Lando, his mate, to be the meat in a Ferrari Mercedes sandwich? Took him along the road to be his protection. Genius. God tier level IQ from Carlos Sainz Jr. in 2023. In Charles Leclerc, 2022 winner. Charles Leclerc in 2019, excuse me, we're talking pole sitters, of course. And 2018, Sir Lewis Hamilton. Your race winners most recently. 24 was Lando. 2023, Carlos. 22, of course, was Checo Perez, Mr. Street King himself. 19, Sebastian Vettel. And 2018 was the God tier lap that was Sir Lewis Hamilton. Went on to win the race that year. Here's the form, and this is where it gets techier than techie things. Since the summer break, something has happened. You've heard me say on a gazillion occasions, the financial services terminology, that the trend is your friend until there is a bend. Oscar Piastri has been going gangbusters. All of a sudden, though, since the summer break, the leader of the points accumulators has a name, and his name is Max Emilian Verstappen. Some say 4-time 5-time champion, 68 points since the summer's break. The only person tailing him is King George Russell, and therefore thou shalt put some respect on King George Russell's name. It's not been too badly here, and this slide only underlines that the leaders thus far, this is the Destructors Championship, those who have yeeted it into the barrier, and so by doing cost themselves and their team X amount of money. Of course, Charles Leclerc, modern day journalese, is leading this Destructors Championship. 2.2 million US dollars is how much he's cost his team by his damages, his errors of the unforced variety. Second, you've got Sonoda-san on 1.6 million US dollars. Lando Norris in fourth, look at that, 1.6 million. What are we doing, Ollie Behrman? It looks like there's rookie settings apart from Charles and Lando, Jack Doohan, Lance Stroll, Carlos Sainz. What are we doing? But cast your eye to the bottom right hand side of your screen. $225,000 a pop. Max Verstappen and George Russell. They are your laggards as far as Destructors Championship, because they are so consistent. They don't yeet it into the barrier. Those type of dudes with their God tier level IQ and brilliant racecraft and excellent performance season to date don't make mistakes as near as makes no difference. Now, the context as far as the constructors, if McLaren gain themselves 13 points at the Singapore Grand Prix this weekend, they'll be Constructors Championship. But I can't get up for this. The stakes, it only feels like a matter of time, right? If they don't get it this race, they will get it next race. We were talking about this last race at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. 623 points as plays Mercedes in second place. 290. No one else comes close. And for that, McLaren need to be congratulated, do they not? Because they've built themselves the best car, the quickest one on the grid all season long, despite anything that Lando Norris wants to tell you. Here's what else I need to tell you. I've got some stats and facts written down in front of me that are really important. As far as Oscar Piastri is concerned, I keep saying the trend is your friend until there's a bend. Here's why that piece is bloody important. As far as Oscar is concerned, he's only ever had 4 DNFs his entire career. 44 prior to Baku, the nightmare that was. 44 race finishes back to back to back. 34 points finishes consecutively. Oscar Piastri was going great guns, right? Like, he was consistent, par excellence almost. He was just doing the Alain Prost thing and picking up points. However, here's what's important, chat. As far as Oscar Piastri was going great guns, wasn't he? First half of the season, but the trend is your friend until there is a bend. Let me read this out, and again, courtesy of Daniel Vellante. Oscar Piastri last year around here struggled. He was 0.428 behind Lando Norris in Q3. In Q3 that session, he was only faster than Logan, Zhou Guanyu, and Lance Stroll. in 2023, excuse me, not 24. He never out-qualified Lando Norris around this track because Lando's not half bad around here. And here's the broader Oscar Piastri circumstance, if you want to know whether last race weekend was anomalous or whether this is the start of a new trend. Oscar Piastri, 4 poles and 5 wins over the first 9 races this season. Since then, however, Oscar Piastri has underperformed. 1 pole, 2 wins over the last 8 races. What are we doing here, chat? What are we doing? The question that we need answering for at the Singapore Grand Prix is whether this is a genuine bend in the trend as far as Oscar Piastri's not insubstantial god-tier performance season to date. Here's your driver standing, 324 points. Oscar Piastri leads Lando Norris by 25 points. 299 points is what Lando Norris has. 69 points adrift of the Drivers' Championship lead is Maximilian Verstappen, 255 points. Can Max do it? That's all that I need to know. But the hypothetical goes like this: if you want to understand how steep the hill that Max will need to climb up is, 69 points looks something like this. Imagine the next 3 races, Oscar Piastri DNFs all of them. Max would need to win every single one of each and every of those 3 races, and even then he would only be 6 points down the road from Oscar Jack Piastri. That, ladies and gentlemen, is chaos, meaning therefore that improbable is the word that I would put to this. Safety car changed. Remember, 60 kilometers was the pit lane speed limit last year. They wanted to switch it up. Lando Norris won a 1-stop hards to mediums, pitting on lap 30. There was no safety car last year. The first time that we've run a race around here since 2008 and there not been a safety car. The first 15 races that we had at Singapore since 2008, there have been 24 safety cars. 24, meaning therefore you're as near as makes no difference guaranteed one around here. 83% of the time, therefore. Only last year we didn't have one. Every other race there's been at least one safety car. What you need to know around here: Ruth Buscombe described this as a strategic stream because it's techie. It's circumstantial. The safety car, how do you get around it? 80 kilometers per hour is the pit lane speed limit because they want to encourage varying circumstances, don't they? Encourage these bods to risk a 2-stopper, particularly if they're safety car. 22.8 seconds, therefore, is how much a pit stop will cost you under green flag circumstance. Last year, it was something like 29 seconds, but now you can go 80 kilometers as versus 60 through the pit lane. That's where that extra time comes from. 11.5 seconds is how much you'll get as a discounted safety car pit stop. It's going to get techie. 33% of the time you'll get a virtual safety car. 0 red flags though, interestingly. Weather, and again, this is courtesy of F1 TV. Rain, it was raining today, wasn't it? Proper rain. But the Singapore climate, this is one of those territories, tracks even, where you get these microclimates and it's just switching all the time. It's raining, it's hot and it's humid. 27 degrees Celsius to 32 on Friday. Saturday, 26 to 32 on Friday. Rain circumstance. So where are they going to get their due diligence for Saturday and Sunday apparently no rain, but 27 to 33 degrees Celsius. These guys, the F1, the FIA, have rendered this a bloody heat warning race. You've got to wear your bloody your cooling vest therefore and stay hydrated lest you want humidity to derail your campaign for a Singapore Grand Prix weekend. Your schedule: this is local time in Singapore. Friday practice, it will be at 5:15. Practice 2 will be at 8:45. Practice 3, 5:15. Qualifying happens at 9 p.m. Again, local time. Race kicks off at 8 p.m. local. It will get techier than techie things around here. There's a couple of questions that need answering. Does that Red Bull work good enough around here? The low minimum speed, bloody turn 16 with its resurface. I mean, the RB21 has never been good around this track. Max Verstappen has never won around here, lest we forget. Is that car now good enough for Max to mount a title challenge proper, notwithstanding the improbable circumstance. 69 points he's behind in the championship. He will need luck. He will need the racing gods, therefore, to be smiling down upon him. Oh, and by the way, we'll go for some news quickly because the news is newsing. Chat too much. Can you imagine if there is rain? Max will be doing one of these, right? Dancing for the racing gods. Well, let me tell you about Alex Dunn quickly. Alex Dunn was on the books of McLaren for the longest time. They saw him apparently as the next one, currently in F2, struggling ever so slightly of late, but that notwithstanding, a super young hot prospect. Alex Dunn was on the McLaren Junior program. Not any longer. They've sacked him. Erstwhile, there's a lot of conversation about racing bulls hovering around Alex Dunn with a view to have him in that car potentially as at 2027 alongside either Tsunoda-san or Liam Lawson or Arvid Lindblad. Now, the bookmakers' favourites at this juncture, of course, Arvid Lindblad and Liam Lawson for next year. Tsunoda-san potentially as Aston Martin reserve driver to keep happy their brand new stakeholders. Honda as an a power unit manufacturer, potentially. But then Alex Dunn, how does he get into that racing bull seat? Potentially, if Liam Lawson or Arvid Lindblad slip up, then they will sub him on in 2027 or else keep him there as a reserve driver. Oh, and by the way, the press conference got techie today. I want to say it was Julian Sedasoli kept on asking the question to Charles, Alex, Isaac Hadjar, so to George Russell and Lando Norris, if Max Verstappen has a chance of winning the championship in 2025, what integer do you assign to that probability? Lando didn't even want to answer the question. He's like, I don't know. And I just wanted to stay away from it. George looked Lando Norris in his face and he said 100%. Of course, George was joking, but the look was very trolley. So I looked at him and he was like, wow. I mean, if you're going to keep making mistakes the way that you're making them, then Lando, 100% all invested in Maximilian Verstappen PLC. The likes of Charles Leclerc and Isaac Hadjar, Alex Albon were like, 20%. That Max Verstappen said Charles has a greater likelihood of winning the championship than I do Charles Leclerc and Scuderia Ferrari of winning a race. Interesting that from Charles. Oh, and by the way, there's conversations about Alex Palou. He's taken McLaren to court, hasn't he? Or in fact, I've got it the wrong way around there. Zach Brown has taken Alex Palou to court. Why? Because they had a contract signed and Alex said, you know what, I'm not going over to that 2-bob team. Are you having a giraffe? Alex Palou, in his defence, he said that Zach Brown tricked him, that they deceived him into thinking that in signing for them over in the States, that he had a possibility, the chance of being promoted to McLaren F1. But then they went and signed Oscar. So what are you doing? How does this even make sense? Alex Palou said in court today, or his lawyers at least, said that Zach Brown deceived him into signing a contract for Zach Brown's second-class IndyCar team. Brown was leading him on, Palou's lawyers said, with the suggestion that that would lead to a place in his Formula One team. Of course it was baloney. It was never, ever going to happen. Alex Palou was... he was up the stream without a paddle, as they say, but this is bloody Formula One and this is motorsport. Lando no risk. It's not Lando no risk amplitude run. It's Lando no risk. Go and check out Lando on Chicken Shop Date and you will see why I call him Lando no risk. You would expect him to have all the charisma, but he doesn't. He just doesn't. Yuki deserves a seat next year. He's been all right, but name me another Red Bull racing driver who's gone 7 races consecutive, back to back, without scoring any points. I'll wait. Oscar didn't even answer the question. Media team went, I didn't see. Oscar wasn't in the press conference, I don't think. So he didn't answer the question. Max did. Max was like, either I win or I lose. So 50%, nothing long. Can the RB21 take on slow to medium speed circuit? You know what? I'm going to have a chat in a couple minutes with Dr. Obbs and I will stream it live on here. The next 10-15 minutes. Dr. Obbs, an in the know guy, a god tier F1 mind, master aerodynamicist. I'll have a chat with him and we'll talk about it, whether Red Bull have really fix their problem again. We'll be streaming that in it. I need to run away and go and talk to him about 10 minutes. Kartik says, a bit of a boat rocking. Love to see it. Facts, Michael. What's Michael saying? Mats would have won in Spa if the director didn't embarrass himself. Probably. Don't hate it. But then if my auntie had a phallic tool, she would be my uncle. Ted saying to Oscar, is the real deal or the guy from Baku was hilarious? I don't understand that. Let's go. Yeah, no, Dr. Hobbs. Go on then. I'm going to run away and set up this stream with Dr. Hobbs. We'll be back in about 10-15 minutes. I hope you guys enjoy that preview. I've been looking for one of those myself. I want somebody to condense all of the requisite information, contextual and or otherwise, that I need to enrich my Singapore viewing pleasure. I've got to steal that from F1 TV and their bloody weekend warm-up, and it's Benson on the checkered flag. No one gets to it quick. I'll be back in a couple minutes to talk to Dr. Obbs about all things Red Bull and whether they now have a car capable, commensurate for a Maximilian Verstappen 4 soon to be 5-time championship campaign. Oh, the humanity.